Good morning, friends, wherever you are. Welcome to today's Cichlids and Coffee live stream. And I hope you're comfortable and having a cup of your favorite beverage. This cup comes from the Ohio Cichlid Association. Not sure if you can see it there. Very nice little mug. Waiting for some more folks to get on, and we have Wally's Freshwater Aquatics in the house. Hey, Wally. Cat Sailor's here. Salient's been working hard as a moderator. Thank you, Salient. Smokey the Fish Girl. Smokey the Fish Girl. What a great name. Thank you for joining us today. Ex-Kali Kev is here. Dustin is in the house. Hey, Brian. Good to see you, buddy. Let's see. More people are getting on. Let's give them a chance. Hey, Whip's World in the house. You and I need to talk, Whip. I'm getting close to getting ready for that female red tear. I have tear in my fish room. Why not double it? And let's see here. Hey, Michael. Michael's in the house. Good morning to you, my friend. Lady Diane. Hey, Lady Diane, you were early today. Good to see you. Paul Newman, #1 on the chat. Thank you, Paul. Always appreciated, my friend. So today we're going to talk about what I think is an interesting topic. I mean, over the years, I've certainly expanded my interest in different kinds of fish. And as you know, for those of you who've been following the channel for a long time, it was originally all African cichlids, and now, if you look behind me, there's not an African cichlid to be seen, but I'm looking at African cichlids right in front of me in a 300-gallon aquarium. But there's certainly a broader range of fish, and every now and then I like to just sit back and challenge myself and go, okay, look, if I had to take just one fish with me. If I was down to just one aquarium, what would I do? And so now these fish I'm going to talk about are subject to change without notice because my preferences change, and but some fish, I have noticed that some fish over time continue to be a favorite, and we'll get a little bit into the live stream. I'm also going to have a movie quote for you, and whoever gets the answer first as to what movie that quote came from is going to get some fish food from one of our wonderful sponsors here. And in this case, I have some wonderful food here from Josh over at Cunningham Tropicals. There's fry starter and earthworm pellets and high-intensity color pellets. And also, if I find out from you that you have a particular kind of fish, I might just throw in some or substitute some Northfin or some Sarah. I have Northfin and Sarah as well. All of these are very high-quality fish food, so whoever gets the movie trivia question, I have a little bit of it might be a tough one for some of you, but it's, I'm sure one of you will get it. And so stay tuned for that. I did have a fish room tour queued up, but my video editing software decided to hiccup, and I can't find it now. So don't whatever you do, if you're going to get into video editing, don't get into Vegas. It's called Vegas video editing software. It seems like a pretty comprehensive suite, but it tends to crash, and it will lose your content, your material. So I've been trying to make the transition to what is called DaVinci, which is a better software, a better video editing platform. So, but it's a learning curve. And sometimes you get comfortable and you kind of go with, well, the devil I know is better than the devil I don't know. So Michael said that the AV is perfect. Thank you, Michael. That takes a lot of anxiety off of me when I get that kind of report back. I appreciate that. Andy in the house, Kendall G. Hey, Kendall G. If I miss you and don't call you out, it doesn't mean I don't like you. It just means I didn't see you or got distracted. And hey, Denny. Denny's in the house, one of my moderators. A big shout out to my moderators. And let's do a couple shout outs before we get rolling here. And with some of my favorite fish, let's see, a couple shout outs. Of course, I've already mentioned my friend Josh over at Cunningham Tropicals. Check him out. I do have some beautiful fish in house right now, some behind me in a quarantine tank that I picked up from Josh. I also have some blue Congo tetras that are just absolutely gorgeous. Check those out. If one of the moderators want to share the link to the video called Miracle Fish, which talks about those blue Congo tetras. So there is a code for you to use, 15% off on fish. Use ben.o.cichlid. And if you want to buy some of his fish food, some of his dry goods, use ben.o.10 for 10% off on that. So big shout out to Josh on his help. I also get a lot of backup from the aquarium co-op. So a big shout out to Zenzo and Corey and Candy and the team over at Aquarium Co-op for their backup. And a very special shout out to those of you who support the channel on a monthly basis by being a Patreon supporter. As I like to say, it helps the channel in more ways than you know, and it starts for as little as $3 a month. So thank you to all of you who do the Patreon support. And it's in lieu of YouTube memberships. YouTube is offering memberships now, but for some reason I've always been kind of, I don't know, not wanting to do member-only content. I just like to put content out there. Sometimes the Patreons do get like a preview of an upcoming video. They also get a special message that I put out, just like an inside, what's going on behind the scenes. I think it's called behind the lens or behind the camera. So there's a few things you get as a Patreon, but I don't like to. I haven't really convinced myself about adding content that you have to pay to see. That's just me. I'm just a little goofy. Maybe I'm stupid, losing money, but that's and those channels that do that, great for them. I'm not knocking them at all. Everyone runs their channel the way they want. And also, if you'd like to pick up some cool swag, t-shirts and coffee mugs and hoodies and stuff like that, visit my Teespring store. It really helps the channel also. And I'm working on a hat. I still don't have a hat for the channel. I had a prototype. I didn't like it, but I am still working on a hat. But there are sweatshirts and hoodies and tank tops and all kinds of cool stuff there. Check it out if you get a chance. And there you go. Pay some bills. Did I miss something? Let's see here. And of course, the best way that you can support the channel is by watching the videos and subscribing and hitting that notification bell. And as I've said recently, if you are subscribed, verify that you still are, because for some reason YouTube is unsubscribing people randomly. I don't know why they're doing that, but they are. So keep an eye on that. So let's do a let's see here if I can do the official start of the live stream. This is what makes it official. Here we go. All right, now we're good to go. All right, so how are you folks doing? I am going to be looking at your comments in a minute here, and we'll go ahead and answer some of your questions, which I really enjoy doing. I also enjoy watching the conversations that take place between you folks on the chat. Looks like Ronald's in the house. Hey, Zen Ginger. And they got Ronald and Waynard. Wolmerans, hello, Waynard, good to see you. And did I say hi to Miguel? And Ronald and Kimberly. Hey, Kim, good to see you. Mike is here. Mighty Mac is here. It's okay to be late. Mini Mac, it's okay to be late. Had a minor overflow. Oh, not good. Not good. Water on the floor. I'll tell you one of the best things that's happened to me in keeping fish. Hi, Tracy. Just saw you there. Good morning to you. One of the best things that's happened to me in keeping fish is being in a place where I have concrete floors, where I don't worry about damaging wood or tile or carpet, which was a big concern of mine in California. So that has changed, and I have a lot less anxiety because of it. I was reading some of the instructions from my friends over at Glass Cages. Hey, Daniel. Daniel, is that Daniel Ben.o.? Daniel Ben.o, welcome to the live stream. At any rate, I was reading something from Glass Cages. They were talking about how if you have carpet, I guess when they sell you one of their big mega tanks, right? If you have carpet, they ask you to cut away the carpet where the aquarium is going to be. They don't recommend putting aquarium stands on carpet. They want it on a solid floor, and they want the stand leveled, and then they give you a leveling pad that goes under the right. And this is all part of keeping the warranty intact that they give you on their aquariums. It's like a year more. I forget what it was. They have a warranty on it, but just something that was interesting to me. But the hardwood and carpet, I had a hard time with it in California. It's impossible not to, at some point, get water on the floor. I mean, it just happens. And if you have carpet, you'll end up with mold, which is never good. All right, so let's see here. More folks are jumping on. Hey, Malcolm Reynolds in the house. It's pouring rain. It was pouring last night. It's drizzling here now. We had beautiful weather during the week. I had absolutely perfect bike riding conditions. A little cool in the shadows, warm in the sun. It was absolutely perfect for about 4 days. And now we've got some rain again, which I like it. It kind of cleans things out. And, it's fresh air. You sleep with the window open. You get that fresh rain air. It's just really, I like it. I like it. Raider Rick in the house. Raider Rick. Very cool. You've been following for a long time, Raider. Thank you, my friend. I appreciate that. There's so many folks that lurk. And by lurk, what I mean is I've never seen them. I've never heard of them. I don't know their name. And they've been following the channel for years and years. Sometimes I'll bump into them at a place like Aquashella or randomly at a fish store, and they'll introduce themselves. And it's just such a joy, such a pleasure to have somebody come up to me and go, hey, I've been watching your stuff for a while. I've gotten, you've helped me a lot. And I had someone the other day comment about how they were able to get back into African cichlids and how much it helped. And it fills my heart with joy. So let's talk about today's topic, and then we'll do the fish giveaway, or we'll do the fish food giveaway. And I have again, the fish I'm going to talk to you about are not the definitive end all list for all time. As fish develop, like for example, as those albino acaras start to put on size, there's a good chance that one or all of those fish could move into the number one position. Right now, they're still small. They're developing. They're starting to develop personality. I'm looking at them as I speak to you. They're starting to get red on the fringes of the fins. They're getting spots, beautiful, like spangled spots on the dorsal and tail, and they're going to be absolutely gorgeous fish. So they get an honorable mention. I've got to give an honorable mention to rummy nose. I love rummy nose. It's a beautiful fish. I love the way they school. I would include Harlequin rasboras in there. I would also include, and a fish that's just taken for granted because it's everywhere. But if you just step back for a moment and just pretend you've never seen it before, a cardinal or a neon tetra is actually a beautiful fish. It's like, these glowfish, they genetically modify glowfish, but here's a fish that in nature has just gorgeous coloration. So there's a lot of runner-ups. A Malawi hawk, right? An Aristochromis. I mean, what a crazy fish. Any of the Buccochromis, your Rhodesii yellows, your Notitanias, beautiful fish. A gar, a Malawi gar. When that fish is colored up, it's the crazy shape, the colors. You got to give that fish an honorable mention. A Kawingi. A Kawingi is a gorgeous fish. What about geos? And geos, all types of geos, gorgeous fish, beautiful shape, usually a good temperament. So green tears, gorgeous fish, especially after they put on size. Jack Dempsey's are crazy fish, crazy looking fish. The way they speckle up, with those neon luminescent dots on the body. And so there's so many gorgeous fish out there. And so the list today is something I compiled. And you tell me what you think of it. So let's get first into the top of the list, and I'll work my way up to the number one. I've got to include the eye biter. The eye biter for a couple of reasons. One, when they're colored up, which is when they're the most dangerous, by the way. So it's a two-sided blade here. But when they're colored up, they are, in my opinion, a spectacular shade of blue. The fringe on the dorsal and that crazy shape that they have is just, they're just a very unique creature. I mean, they're like paper thin. They're designed to attack from above, so they have a very thin profile, so they can get right over a fish, a little bit the way a Malawi hawk does. Except the Malawi hawk does that funny tilt where they tilt sideways to look before they attack. The eye biter just goes right over a fish, uses that thin profile, and then drops down. It's like a true predator hap, but it's a spectacular fish, and I've got to include it on the short list. The Malawi this eye biter. Do they bite eyes? I don't think so. I haven't had a problem with fish eyes. I'm going to be adding a good size eye biter to the 300. I'll keep an eye on things, pun intended. I have to include in this list a beautiful fish that I picked up from my friend Whip, and he's going to be bringing over a mate for this fish. But this is, of course, I'm talking about the red tear, and this fish. I'll give him a kiss. This fish is absolutely gorgeous, and he's currently living in tight quarters. I tried him in here. He wasn't antagonistic or causing as much of the trouble, but he was disrupting the pecking order, the hierarchy, and driving some of the other fish crazy. But then he did start to corral the Vieja and the Oscar. Corral them in the corner where they were facing the corner like they were being punished, like in grade school. And so I had to pull them out, and I'm going to be setting up a 60-gallon where I'm going to have him get comfortable in there, and then I'll add a female and see where that goes. I might divide the 60-gallon and have him and the female kind of get acquainted through a screen, and then remove the screen and just see where it goes. You got to keep an eye on those kind of things. But he's on the short list. He is on the short list of fish that that I would consider one of my favorites. Now you also have to include severums in there. I've got this beautiful red shoulder in here who started demonstrating the prominent bars once I put him into this tank. Come on over here, buddy. Get on the camera. Come on. He's becoming less and less shy. He's changed color since he come in here. You can see the red on the body a lot more since he went into this tank. And definitely a different fish since I switched him from the 90. But some people call severums the poor man's discus. I don't agree. I think they're just, as a standalone fish, they're just a beautiful fish. So severums are on the short list. Beautiful fish, in my opinion. They're a beautiful fish. Now, again, if I was running away with just one fish, I would have to include the Oscars. I mean, they're just big, giant water puppies. Yeah, he's been sitting right here watching the live stream. He's watching my computer. He wants to know if I'm talking about him. The albino is a beautiful fish in his own right. Look at this vieja. I've got to have vieja on the list too, right? But Oscars are just water puppies. And so as far as a pet goes, you gotta include an Oscar. And the picture was just blocking what I was doing here, but he's been right here just hanging out, watching me the whole time. There's the vieja right below him. He has no fear. And here's his cohort. I don't know if you can see the eyes on this albino, but it's like they have a light bulb behind them. But you have to include the Oscar on the short list because Oscars, they really are water puppies. They interact. They'll eat from your hand. They just have to be on that list. So Oscars are definitely on the short list. But are they number one? No, they're not number one. Now, you have to include a trout. Here's a fish that gets up to 14 inches or more. Gorgeous fish. Very, very active. Never stops moving. A lot like a Buccochromis notatania. Takes on beautiful colors, especially when they're fired up. Like when that trout builds a pit, which he hasn't done in a while. Used to do it all the time after a water change. And I think the Kawingi and the Buccochromis rhodesii yellow have gotten a bit senior in the pecking order. So he doesn't build pits as much like he used to. But you gotta have a trout on there. Again, a predator hap. And just one of the most beautiful. Look at the length of the finnage, the size of the pectoral fins and the anal fin. It's just a beautiful torpedo of a fish. And I think if you're going to keep African cichlids and you have a minimum of 6 feet across available to this fish, because he is an open water, high speed fish, you've got to have a trout. You got to have a trout. Just a gorgeous fish. So those are the runner up. Those are the runners up. And I know I've forgotten some fish. I mean, I'd probably have to also include an Autopharynx tetrastigma. I hope to add one of these back into my aquarium. Sometimes they get confused with a intermedius. It's not an intermedius, it's an Autopharynx tetrastigma. The intermedius has a slightly steeper slope on the head, and I don't think it gets quite the coloration, that beautiful muted coloration that the Autopharynx gets. A relatively peaceful fish, similar to a Plastidachromis Johnson eye, but I think more spectacular. So I would definitely include an Autopharynx tetrastigma on the list, and I think I'd also have to include a sand diver. I recently lost a sand diver. I hope to replace the sand diver. I'll work something out with the jaws, or I might just, I don't know where I'll pick them up at. If I have to pick up a small one and grow it out, I will. I've got to have a sand diver in my aquarium. Again, a fish that can get pretty hefty, 8 to 10 inches easily in an aquarium, and just a gorgeous fish. And I have had them bury themselves in the sand where only an eye is showing. It's absolutely hilarious. And just a beautiful. I've also had, by the way, I've also had a Cara. I've had a Cara bury themselves in the sand. Did you know that a Cara will bury themselves as a defense mechanism? Really, really cute. So, but, okay, I can only keep one fish currently, looking at all of the fish I have. And I'm only going to be allowed to keep one fish currently. Which fish would it be? And I think, and again, this is subject to change, and it might be different by the end of the day, but for right now, it's got to be the Salvini. The Salvini is, in my opinion, an absolutely gorgeous freshwater fish. Now, granted, I don't have discus in the fish room yet, and maybe after I get discus, I'll say that they are superior in color and in patterns. You could make an argument for several of the fish that I've said. You could make an argument for a paratilapia, right? Polini, a starry night. You could say that that's a beautiful fish in just the simple black and white and size and shape. You can make an argument for that. But for right now, and I'm not sure if I can coax her over here. They've been fed, so they probably think they're not falling for my "I'm going to feed you" trick. But she's over there in the corner. Come on over here, girl. This is your chance to be on camera. I think she's working her way over here. She wants to know what I'm doing with my hand. Up, to go back. Okay, well, she'll come out here eventually. You know who I forgot to mention? I forgot to mention my electric blue Acaras. Electric blue Acaras are also gorgeous. And the one that I moved into the 210 has just been, as a fly in here, by the way. You're going to see me swatting things around. There's the electric blue Acara is absolutely beautiful. And she'll come onto the camera every now and then. But if you think I had a hard time deciding, you were right. I had a hard time deciding because there's so many beautiful fish. I mean, where does a firemouth fit into all of that? There's a beautiful firemouth right there. How about that Azul? Remember that Azul Salvini that I had before? That was an absolute killer. That Azul was gorgeous. The patterns on that fish, absolutely beautiful, but I had to get rid of him. He was just too crazy and too much of a killer. So I had to rehome him. That was a real loss for me. And in hindsight, I almost wish I had set up an aquarium just for that fish because he was absolutely beautiful. But let's give away some fish food. What do you say? Let's give away some fish food. I have a quote here that if you know it, you're going to identify the movie. You're going to know the movie immediately if you know it. If you don't, let's see here. Here we go. Get ready. Get your fingers ready. You have to be in the United States. I can ship abroad, unfortunately. I'm sorry about that. But if you're in the continental United States, you can win some quality fish food. If you are the winner, send me your type of fish, what types of fish you have, and I'll try and match up the food for what the kind of fish that you have. All right, here we go. Ready? Badges? We ain't got no badges. We don't need no badges. I don't have to show you any stinking badges. All right. What movie is that from? Someone's got to know. What movie is that from? I'm looking at the chat. Moderators, help me with who the first person is that identifies it. Moderators, do not answer. You do not qualify. Three Amigos, that's a good guess, but no. Aquazone, that's a good guess too. Super Troopers, no. Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. But these are great movies, but you're... No. No, come on. Someone's got to get it. Yeah, some of my moderators who are probably close to me in age, they know. Badges? We ain't got no badges. We don't need no badges. I don't have to show you any stinking badges. Ali Shan A.S., the Treasure of Sierra Madre, we have a winner. Such a great movie. Such a great classic. I grew up watching Humphrey Bogart movies. That was a tough one. Ali Shan A.S., send me your name, your mailing address, and the type of fish that you have, and I will get out some food from our wonderful sponsor, Josh, at Cunningham Tropicals, if you can see it in the glare. Or I'll match you up with some North Fin or some Sarah, but I'll get you some quality food. And well done on that guess. Stinking badges. Yep. What I read to you was a direct quote. That was a direct quote. And it's from the AFI, American Film Institute. I don't have to show you any stinking badges. Oh, my goodness. Now, if I missed any super chats, I'm sorry. I wasn't looking for the super chats, but those super chats do help pay for things like the postage on sending out things like this. And for those of you who receive packages from me, you know that postage is crazy. All right. Hey, Vibes Aquatics in the house. Good to see you. One of my wonderful moderators, JT Cooper. Did I say hello to you, by the way? And Mess, M-E-S, and Frank, and Dustin Robley. I think I didn't say hi to any of you. All right. GP says, I think Mel Brooks said it first. Mel Brooks probably said a lot of things first. I think I have to get a Mel Brooks quote in here somewhere. I know Young Frankenstein is full of wonderful quotes. Werewolves, their wolves, their castle. So, all right. So let's take a look at some of your questions. We'll take a look at the chat and see what's on your mind. You are welcome, Alishan A.S. Be sure to send me that email. It takes me about a week to get, depending on the weather. Last week's winter got sent out late because it was raining so darn hard that, but I will get, weather permitting, I'll get it out to you by the middle of this coming week. Raider Rick 305 in the house. Okay, let's see here. TA420NK, that's in many movies. Yep, yep, yep. All right, any questions? Go ahead and ask me now. Let's go ahead and take up your questions. I am looking at the chat as we speak. And somebody made an interesting comment after under one of my videos asking about UV. Now, some of you saw the short that I released. I released a video short on it. But if you use a UV light in your aquarium, don't worry about its impact on beneficial bacteria, because it's not going to impact beneficial bacteria in an established tank. Now, if you're adding bacteria in a bottle, I think is what is it, Seachem, Stability, Fritz, Zyme, something like that, Tim's, products like that, I would turn off my UV light if I'm adding bacteria that hasn't attached itself to something. It's just free floating in the water column. And so chances are it's going to fly by that UV light and get destroyed. So if you're just setting up a tank, turn off that UV light. Once the tank is established and you have a good colony of bacteria in your filter media, in your substrate, on your decor, fire up that UV light. It's not going to have any negative impact on the stability of the aquarium. So just something to keep in mind about beneficial bacteria. Some of you saw the video I put out on beneficial bacteria and the follow-up short. Maybe one of the moderators can share a link to that video, but it got some pretty good traction. I think people liked it. Some of these topics I've talked about many times, whether we're talking about canister filters, substrate, UV lights, beneficial bacteria, fish food. But what happens is over time, I develop a different take on the subject. And so I give you kind of an update on where I'm at. And so even though it seems like I'm recycling some of the topics, which, I mean, after several years of putting out content on fish, you're going to revisit topics. It's impossible not to. You're going to talk about hang-on back filters and sumps and sponge filters and beneficial. You're going to go over that ground several times, but each time it's going to be a different take based on the experience that I had from that last video, since that last video. So if you go into one of my playlists, let's say you go into my sump filter playlist, which has about, 30 videos. My suggestion would be watch the more recent, like the ones in the last year, to get the latest. Unless there's something very particular, like how to build a Durso to quiet down an overflow box, or something like that, which might be one of the older sump videos. But in general, you're going to be best served to get the most recent additions to any of my playlists, because that has probably the most updated information. Doesn't mean that there isn't valuable information in the older videos. There is. And sometimes I'll watch one of my own older videos and go, wow, I forgot about that angle. I forgot about that nuance of that topic. And and that might inspire a video. Most of my video inspiration these days, honestly, comes from you. Comments and questions that you make, and is probably what inspires a lot of my content these days. Also, other YouTubers might give a take on something, and I might have a different take, or I might feel that it's a topic that should be commented on from a different angle, and so that might inspire me to do a video. So inspiration comes from different things these days. Now, if you have a question, go ahead and ask it now. Andy is very smart. He put my name at the beginning of his question. Now, if you have a very specific question for me, do that. Put my name first like Andy did, and then go ahead and you can see it. It highlights it, and it really brings it up to my attention. So his question is, what do you currently have for filtration on your 220-gallon aquarium? Now, this is a 210, and it's probably the one I'm sure it's the one you're talking about. Technically, it's a 210-gallon aquarium. And the truth is, people will measure their aquariums based on the outside dimensions. But if you did the inside dimensions and apply the gallon calculation, you'd find that your aquariums are actually less water than you think. Now, why is that important? Because you're dosing, you might be overdosing. So just something to keep in mind. Unless you think that the companies that make those products are taking into consideration outside dimensions. But just an interesting bit of trivia. This aquarium is currently being filtered with a 39, let's just call it a 40-gallon aquarium that serves as a sump. And that sump has a Cichlid 9.0. I think it's almost 2,000 gallons an hour of water. I think it's 18, maybe 1,800 gallons of water. And of course, that gets reduced because of what is called head pressure. The amount of distance from the pump, up to the top of the tank, that's called head pressure, and that reduces the gallons per hour. So you have a sump with large 4-inch thick, 14-inch tall, 3 large sponges, and some Sarah Siporax media. So that's the main filter, and then as a backup, as sort of a water polishing filter, I have a Sun 704B canister filter that is filled primarily with sponges, and it has a pre-filter sponge over the intake, which means that I only have to service the canister every 6 or 9 months, which is great because canisters are a pain to service. So I'll admit it, they are a pain to service. So I hope that answers your question, Andy. All right, let's see here. Ronald is asking about the tidal canister that you can control with an app. Seems like everything is app controlled these days. Smokey the Fish Girl, gonna throw 2 FX6s and an HOB and an internal filter on that bad boy. Not sure what tank you're talking about, but about a 150? Yeah, that's going to be plenty for that tank. That's going to be some great filtration. And it'll give you redundancy, and you can work on one filter while the other ones are running. If one fails, you're going to have enough filtration to handle the tank. Yep, that's a great setup. I love backup and redundancy. Now, JT Cooper, you are right about that, about UV lights. And just realize that a UV light, to work correctly, it has to have time to work on the water. So a UV light that's inside of a canister where water is flying by at 200-300 gallons an hour, it's not going to really do much except maybe do a little bit of water clarity, a little bit of water polishing, which it does. I have noticed a difference, but I removed the UV light in my Sun 704B. I just wasn't using it. And when I did have it, I'd only use it on weekends. It's not going to kill bacteria and viruses Whereas a UV light that allows the water to go by slowly. This is why I have what is called a green killing machine. Green killing machine. I'm not sponsored by them. I purchased the one I have in the 90-gallon, and it has its own little power head, and it moves the water slowly past the UV light and allows the UV light to do its job. You can also buy what are called twists. These are UV lights that are going a circular motion inside of a tube, and you have to splice them onto some hosing and run a pump. And the more hosing, like inline heaters, things of this nature, the more connection points, the more potential leaks and failure points. So I don't really like the inline, but those people who have them up and running swear by them. They love them. I think Denny had some inline UV lights. They do a great job. So something that's something to keep in mind when it comes to UV. Ronald loves his Title 110 HOB. You're welcome, Andy. Well, Whip's World is making a good point. Filtration won't change. Water change schedule. Nitrates will rise regardless of filtration. You could still be on a 3 times a week schedule depending on your... And that's true. That's true. And one of the misconceptions out there about beneficial bacteria is, let me add more filters. Let me put 3 canisters, 4 canisters, 4 HOBs. No, it's not going to give you more beneficial bacteria. It's going to spread out where it lives for sure, but you're only going to have as much beneficial bacteria as your aquarium can feed. So based on how much you're feeding, how heavily stocked you are, how much ammonia is being produced, that's going to determine how much beneficial bacteria you'll have going on. You're not going to have more than that, because you're not going to be able to feed or support more than that. So whether you're doing it with 6 canisters or 1 hang-on back and a deep substrate, you're going to have a fixed amount of beneficial bacteria. So good point, Whip. Now, chances are, or looking at percentages and spreading things out, if you do have a lot of filters and you do a major cleaning on a filter, and you have, let's say you're running 4 filters, you are going to disrupt the aquarium less than if you had just 1 filter. So there are some advantages there. And again, each person in the fish hobby, and this speaking to Ronald's comment, each person in the hobby is going to operate off of their anecdotal experience. Some people will go ahead and swear by something that another person says, I tried before and I didn't really see a difference. Or I'll give you a personal example. Chemical filtration, Purigen, things like that, right? Even activated carbon. When a tank is brand new, I might throw some of that in just to, get some of that water clarity going. I might use it if I smell something funny. I might use it if I finished a regimen of medicating. I might throw some of that in there, either activated carbon or a resin-based chemical filtration, something like that. But once a tank is established, I don't use any products like that. Like this tank behind me, I mean, you know, you've got to admit the tank behind me looks pretty clear, and there's no Purigen, there's no Chemi-Pure, there's no activated carbon, nothing going on here. It's just water circulating through sponges and, you know, flowing over some Ciporax, some Cerasiporax, maybe even a little bit of Chem Matrix in the canister maybe. I forget what I put in there. But you can see the water clarity is very, very good. He would probably love to bite my finger. By the way, I've got 2 chocolate cichlids in here. One of them bit my finger, and they have teeth. It is not fun. All right. Any more questions? Hit me. Hit me with a question if you got one. And I'll tell you what, we're running a little bit tight on time. What I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and release a video later on today, a video of a raw look at what's going on here in the fish room. I've moved some things around. It's a little bit of a mess, but it's getting better. I'll give you an update on my 300 baby plecos, on my my new community fish in quarantine, my new African cichlids in quarantine, and we'll look at all the fish in today's lap of the fish room. I'll release it this afternoon, and please check that out. Share it with your friends, and we can take a look at that. And Ali Shan, thank you for that email. I will look for it, and I'll hook you up, my friend, with some good quality fish food. I think we'll go ahead and do this movie trivia quote every week. I kind of like it. It's kind of fun. And Ronald says he runs carbon. JD, my discus tank will have a UV light. Yeah, you know, it's one of the things that is a common recommendation, JT, among discus keepers is run a UV light. And now, that being said, I'm hearing that there are strains of discus that we're getting now, like our friends over at Super Cichlids, Lisa and the fish that she has there, that there are some strains of discus now that are more robust. They're not as sensitive. They can take different water temperatures. It doesn't have to be so delicate a balance. They're not quick to get disease. So I hope that's the case, because when I get discus, certainly starting off, I'm going to try and provide the best I can for them, but I don't want to experience a lot of die-offs. But people, it is recommended that you do keep UV light for discus. All right. Well, that being said, I think we're going to go ahead and go off and enjoy our weekend. I want to thank all of you for spending some time with me today, and do share your comments about my favorite fish in the fish room. I don't think that the Salvini came out of her corner. She's back there she's still back there protecting her corner. She loves the darker, quieter corner of the tank, and so I respect that. So I could go over there and scare her out, but you'll see her in the lap of the fish room. But thank you, everybody, for sitting in. You are appreciated. You do rock, my friends. Thank you to my wonderful moderators. Big shout out to Josh over at Cunningham Tropicals, to the Aquarium Co-op, and also to my wonderful Patreon supporters. Your help is very appreciated. And to all of you who have subscribed, and to all of you who view my videos, You are all very appreciated. I'll see you next week at the same time. And I think that's it for me, my friends. Let's go ahead and end off with that. Take care. Have a wonderful weekend.